As we say in the barbershop, don't chase that paper, make that paper chase you. And that's exactly what Lamar did. We'll talk about it here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is your team every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On NFL. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On NFL podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Make sure wherever you watch or listen, you tap in each and every day. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And shout out to the everydayers for joining us here in the barbershop on Locked On NFL. Running solo dolo today because of a scheduling issue. That is all on me. So Julian Council will be back with us next Monday. But here's what I'm going to talk about today here in the shop. No regrets for Myles Garrett. Not a one regret and no apology. And I can't say that I blame him. Aaron Rodgers, once again, is holding multiple teams hostage. You can't be held hostage if it's voluntary, can you? So maybe I'll give him a little bit of a break and I'll just focus on the teams that are allowing themselves to be held hostage by a guy who is known for holding people hostage. And finally, at the very top, what we're going to talk about is Jamar got everyone paid. If you don't know, the news broke officially. It was bantering about all weekend, but it broke officially that Jamar Chase gets a 4-year, $160 million deal that makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. That lasted about that long for Myles Garrett and somebody else, I think. And now it's Jamar Chase. But Jamar Chase was a catalyst in getting T. Higgins money. I know a lot of people will give credit to Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow wanted them both to get paid. But it was Jamar Chase and his agent. They got T. Higgins to come over and get on board. And it was almost like, hey, it's both of us, right? One guy gets 140, the other guy gets 115. I'm going to have a little take on that, and I'm going to start right here with it. It shows a little bit of humility, in my opinion. It shows T. Higgins is okay being number 2 behind Chase. I think sometimes if you see greatness like that, you know exactly what it is, and ain't no use in fighting it. That dude can play. I told people when he sat out, he was generational. I've been arguing with people for 2 years whether or not he's better than Justin Jefferson. I think he is, but it ain't by much, so it doesn't really matter. But now Jamar Chase gets paid, highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League. It has ramifications, though, for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to peek into the Peacock and Williamson podcast right now for 2 takes. I'm going to give you one and then come back and let Matt Williamson finish it up talking about the concern for the Bengals. But listen to Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson discuss the signings of those 2 wide receivers in Cincinnati.
The Cincinnati Bengals did it. They found a way to keep both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, big money contracts, both top 10 at their position. Man, Joe Burrow's happy. I struggle with this because I have 2 really separate, really strong feelings on this.
Okay.
Because on one hand, why do we do this? Why is football fun? Football is fun because you're 12 years old and you grew up in the suburbs of Cincinnati, Ohio, and your favorite player is Joe Burrow, and you get to watch every Sunday and watch him throw to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and you go in the backyard with your buddies, and you're like, I'm Joe Burrow today. I'm Jamar Chase. Look, I'm Jamar. I made a Jamar-like catch. You know, you can't guard me. I'm T. Higgins. That's fun, and I think it's awesome, and I love that Joe Burrow and T. Higgins, Jamar Chase all wanted to play together, and they all wanted this, and T. Higgins changed agents so he could have the same agent as Jamar Chase so they can make this a package deal and all play together. And I think that's all really good. And I love to see guys get paid and they earned it. But the Bengals are further away from a Super Bowl today with these types of moves than they were yesterday. And they weren't particularly close yesterday based on what we saw on the field in 2024 for the Bengals. So I'm a little bit torn on this one. What's the goal? Are we trying to have fun here with this stinking sport? Isn't that what it's all about? Or is it all about just hoisting that Lombardi?
Well, there's also a business side of it. I mean, you're going to sell tickets to come see these guys too, you know, and jerseys, and they're on the billboards and all that. I'm with you. Frankly, I condone the moves overall. You have a great thing going keep it going. I don't think they're insane prices for today's wide receivers. Higgins probably would even got more if he was a true free agent.
And that's the part that I wanted to capitalize on. He probably would have got more if he was a free agent. But the Bengals have a problem. Their problem is drafting beyond those first few picks, right? So both Chase and Burrow were both top 5 picks. So they hit on them, right? They also hit on Higgins in the second round. Outside of that, they haven't hit on a whole bunch of other picks. They did hit on Joe Mixon, but they let him go after 2 contracts. He's now in Houston. They couldn't keep him. The question is are they going to retain Trey Hendrickson, which is what I heard they're really, really working hard towards. But that's going to make them even more top heavy. The question is, can the Bengals hit with their scouting department like the Eagles and get minimum level players, or not minimum level players, but minimum salary players based on the fact that rookies make less money? Can they hit on more of those? The higher percentage that they hit on those, the better off they will be, because the way that they're going to be playing now, they're going to be playing not like a team who's trying to win a championship, but like a team that won a championship with all of these guys. They kept the band together, and now they have to patch it up and win with younger and unproven players. So here's why I agree with them what they did. When they played the Super Bowl against the Rams a few years back, Burrow, Higgins, and Chase were the 3 best players on the field for their team. They keep that intact, okay? The other thing is you're asking a team that doesn't draft very well to actually let go of players that in those players' cases, they actually did hit on them in the draft. They need to keep as many of the dudes that they hit on and just learn how to hit on some more. Now, I'm going to give you part 2 of something that Williamson said there about the Bengals. And this is where it gets to be a little bit of a bugaboo, and you hope that they can make this turn into something.
Frankly, I love the way you said it to open the show and just now as well. Does this increase your Super Bowl odds? I don't think the answer is yes. I don't know. Big picture. This might be something we should talk about later in the week too. I thought free agency was very underwhelming this year, and I don't think there was many teams that did get a lot better, or many teams that were kind of just the same. They lost a little, they gained a little. I look at like Minnesota and Chicago. I'm like, they got better, but I don't know. All of a sudden, they're going to win the Super Bowl, So it wasn't like you could just build a defense totally in free agency anyway. If they let Higgins walk, would they have Milton Williams and DJ Reed and the best linebacker in the market? Probably not. You know what I mean? So I like keeping a strength of strength. But again, to pull it back even further, like where I think a mistake is made is you don't give Gesicki money then. I can find a move tight end in the 3rd or 4th round anywhere. Like, put all your chips in those guys. I'm cool with that. Maybe draft a guard. I don't care. I hope you're not using money on running backs, Chase Brown and those type of guys. Cool. And they're betting on, the defensive coordinator was the problem, not the players, apparently.
And there it is. You don't waste money on guys like Mike Gesicki. You go into the draft and you get yourself a complete tight end and maybe round 3 or round 4 that can really, really help your team. You do not waste money like that if you are the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, Aaron Rodgers is doing it again, and this time people are allowing him to do it, and they're allowing him to do it knowing what he did before, and that is play those little games and hold teams hostage. We'll discuss that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. All in one convenience is what I love. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. To take control of your finances with Monarch Money, use the code Locked On NFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code Locked On NFL for half your first year off. And today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is here. It's right in your face. The bracket is done, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Picking my favorite college teams, I've got my eye on, believe it or not, the University of Florida and St. John's, both of them. Ain't no underdogs, man, and FanDuel will make it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. That's FanDuel. $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, banging it out here today on Locked On NFL, Solo Dolo. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On NFL show. We just got through talking about Jamar Chase, getting everybody paid. He was the catalyst for everybody to get their money up there. Talk about paper chasing you. You ain't chasing no paper. Paper going to be chasing them now, and I'm sure they'll do a real good job. Another team that I've been thinking about a lot about is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They made the big splash to go out and get DK Metcalf. They made a trade for him. A lot of wide receivers getting paid. We'll even mention Cooper Kupp here in a little bit. But he got paid, got $130 million over like 5 years, and he's going to be maybe $150 million over 5 years. I think he's making $30 million a year. He's going to give Pittsburgh something that they didn't do. And Pittsburgh is doing something that they haven't done in the past. They're actually going outside and signing a big-time free agent and bringing him in on the offensive side of the ball. But now they're messing around with Aaron Rodgers. They're trying to figure out who their quarterback is. Russell Wilson's in limbo. Russell Wilson may be the second member of a quarterback situation between Pittsburgh, Minnesota, as well as the New York Giants. Everybody's waiting on Aaron. Sounds like a TV show. Sounds like something that we have all done before, right? It's a little bit different, but I blame the teams that want to get in on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes, not because they believe that they can bring a little bit more out of him than what you saw with the New York Jets. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but it's the shenanigans and it's the attitude. And Chris Carter, our Thursday host, even sat here with me and said it's ridiculous for them to even think about it. And now Pittsburgh is thinking about it. Well, guess what? Guess what comes along with that? The headache that is Aaron Rodgers. Here's Chris Carter talking about Aaron Rodgers and the possibilities of him playing in Pittsburgh.
If you haven't been keeping up, because it does get maddening trying to follow everything when it comes to this quarterback situation. The Mr. Krabs meme is just a literally everyday thing because it's just the next day there's something else. But there's continued reports that are coming out about multiple directions. And the bottom line here that I'm trying to tell you guys, nobody really knows what's actually going to happen. Why? Because a lot of this just still comes down to Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers appear to be waiting for Aaron Rodgers, just like the Giants appear to be waiting for Aaron Rodgers. But also now the Vikings are in this equation somehow. And there's also a report out there from The Athletic that Aaron Rodgers could really be waiting on just to see if he can just join the Vikings, and if the Vikings don't give him an offer that he wants, he will just retire. Whatever he decides at that point, who knows? This limbo is going to continue for however long teams let it, or he lets it, whatever. But this waiting period, this just makes me think that whatever salary the Steelers offered him isn't really that high or what he thinks he's worth. Otherwise, he would be going through with it probably right now. Now, there's the joke I've seen thrown out there that maybe Aaron Rodgers is just the ultimate life troll and he just wants to follow Brett Favre's teams because he went from the Packers to the Jets and now he wants to go to the Vikings. Maybe that who knows at this point with that guy. But to me, I think this more so just further affirms the point that myself, Alan Saunders, Nick Farabaugh, a lot of people who have come on this show that we talked to have been making on this show, on their shows, and on our written platforms. The Steelers aren't shooting for the sky or shooting for thinking that whoever they sign at quarterback in 2025 is their answer.
If that's the case, and I agree with Chris that is what they're thinking, Why are they dancing around with Aaron Rodgers? Just get it over with and move in another direction. Bring back Russell Wilson. If you want to draft a guy, draft a guy. But I think introducing this weird thing, this cloud that Aaron Rodgers has kind of created for himself over the last couple of years, I just think it's a colossal mistake by an organization like Pittsburgh, because normally they are not involved in these type of shenanigans. But them, Minnesota, who I kind of understand because the Vikings may not want to rush their quarterback, who would have been a rookie last year, but he was injured. So this is going to be like his rookie year, and now he's not going to be healthy. I do think that that's a condition that might be a little bit more conducive in the right kind of scenario. Aaron be playing up where somewhere he's very, very familiar. If I'm Pittsburgh, I don't do it. And if I'm the Giants, well, I don't know what I'd do if I was the New York Giants, but whatever it is, it would not be involving Aaron Rodgers in New York City. They had a front row seat to that foolishness. And maybe those shenanigans that were going on with the Jets was the only thing that allowed the Giants to not be under a bigger microscope. So to me, teams should be doing what they normally do and not what they don't normally do. I normally get all over the New Orleans Saints, and I do it all the time, and pick at my man Ross Jackson, saying that they're always scratching and surviving. The Saints have actually done some really, really good things this offseason, and they're not tanking. I think the Saints are going to try. The Saints are in that bad division or a division that doesn't have a whole bunch of top flight teams. I think they're going to try to go after it and win it, and they're doing it with homegrown talent. The Saints signed a very good safety. Here's Ross Jackson talking about the signing of one Justin Reed.
Another Louisiana-born safety is on his way home. I'm Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast, coming at you from the streets of Louisiana to talk about the Louisiana boy and his opportunity to come back home. The New Orleans Saints signing former Kansas City Chief, former Houston Texans safety. I know that sounds familiar because it sounds just like Tyrann Mathieu, but it's actually Justin Reed, who plays a phenomenally physical, smart, and fast brand of football at safety. Exactly the type of piece that should be able to fit into Brandon Staley's defensive scheme here in New Orleans. They want to rely on versatility, they want to rely on flexibility, and they want to rely on aggression and an attacking nature. Justin Reed does that very well. Reads keys extremely well, is able to crashes like a missile down on some of these guys, and is a real thumper downfield when it comes to making stops in the run game, short passing game, all that. So when you have a game in the NFL, in the passing game, that's moving more laterally as opposed to vertically, Justin Reed, fantastic signing for New Orleans.
And I was shocked at his number. I think his number came in at around something like $13 million. That's a lot less money than I thought he was going to get. I actually talked to a personnel executive from around the league about him when I was trying to differentiate between him, Javon Holland, Trayvon Merrick, and they had nothing but good things to say about him. In fact, the thing that they said is, we can't find anything bad to say about him. If you get him on your team, you'll be all right. The Saints will be all right. I think he fits in with exactly what they want to do in that defense. Maybe he's sort of like the Derwin James in that defense, even though he's a little bit more than a box safety. He's a guy that can cover that intermediate area, and he also makes up a lot of ground when it's time to cover the deep middle of the field. So good signing for the Saints. Kudos to him for actually not only cutting salary cap money, but actually spending some of that money on other players from other teams. They also retained Juwan Johnson, their tight end. Kudos to New Orleans, man. I give them a hard time, but good on them. It's good on you, man, if you are a Cleveland Browns fan, because you got your guy back, but don't be expecting no apology. I wouldn't anyway, but we're going to let those folks up in Cleveland decide that. We'll get to Cooper Kupp, and we're also going to talk about Myles Garrett going back to Cleveland. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, Tony Wiggins here, rolling along. Third segment here on Locked On NFL. Solo dolo today, scheduling issue involving myself and the medical community. Julian Council will be back with us next Monday. We'll be back regularly scheduled tomorrow with our host, our co-host, Kevin Ostracker. Myles Garrett got paid, got his money. A whole bunch made about him not wanting to stay in Cleveland. He said, my goal was never go straight from Cleveland to Canton and all of this stuff. And it seems like some shade was thrown back and forth between him and the owners or him and the GM, and then the owner refused to meet him. Well, that's all out of the window now because Myles Garrett got money. Myles Garrett got paid. And he was the highest paid defensive player in NFL history and was the highest non-paid quarterback per year in NFL history until Jamar Chase broke that down. Here's Spencer German explaining how awkward it may have felt at the press conference involving Myles Garrett's return to Cleveland.
If you wanted an apology for Myles Garrett, you didn't get one on Friday. So yes, Myles Garrett spoke for the first time since signing his contract extension last Sunday, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in football. And this was kind of an abnormal press conference because, Myles, in theory, didn't even have to speak until, if he wanted to, training camp. Like, he could have put this off for that long and just kind of let it fester and let it sort of sit. And he didn't. He showed up. He spoke on it. He talked about what happened, what changed. One thing I do want to say, I did think in some respects like the tone was a little bit lost because the Browns, they had like dinosaurs lined up on the press conference, the podium. They had cupcakes with dinosaurs in them and like a dinosaur themed, like it was a dinosaur themed party essentially, which is funny because that's what my toddler's party theme is going to be this year when he turns 3. But regardless, like I get why they found it celebratory. And in a lot of respects, it is a monumental day. Like, you retained the second greatest player in franchise history behind only Jim Brown for likely the end of his career with this deal. Like, you got a deal done. You kept him in Cleveland. That's a big deal, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. But at the same time, like, I don't think this was celebratory for the fans. For you, like, there was fans who were upset by this. There was fans who felt some type of way about Myles' trade request, even though in the beginning I think people understood it. The going on Radio Row and ragging on the team and saying it wasn't good enough and sort of like kicking Cleveland on the way out. I don't think fans took like that. They didn't like the way he went about it.
Let's think about contracts. Once you pay a guy, it all goes away. Ain't nobody mad at Myles Garrett anymore. They don't care. He's back. All is well in the neighborhood. He got paid, and he's going to stay a Cleveland Brown, and they're going to cheer him no matter what happened. I'm telling you. Ain't nobody mad at Myles Garrett anymore. I know, Spencer, it sounds like those people wanted their pound of flesh like they did from LeBron. Imagine if LeBron had done the decision and then didn't sign his contract the next day and said, I changed my mind. I'm coming back to Cleveland. All those people that burnt those jerseys, they would have went and got them back and said, okay, it's all good. I'm telling you, fans are treated, man, like victims of abuse all the time. That's just the way fans are. And I'm not making light of people who get abused, but this is the thing. Fans have to take what the teams give them, and then they have to act like it didn't happen when the team reverses course and does the very thing that the fans were mad at in the first place. They get angry at players when they leave, but as soon as the player puts those uniforms, the first sack he makes or the first time he runs out of that tunnel when the season starts, it'll all go away. Now, somebody who won't be running out of the tunnel that they used to running out of is Cooper Kupp, but he will be playing in a division as the Seattle Seahawks gave Cooper Kupp a 3-year contract for about $45 million. I actually thought because of Kupp's because of the last couple of years where he hasn't been healthy and he's 32 years old, I thought this contract was bonkers, in my opinion, especially since they traded DK Metcalf. If they were going to do this, they could have just kept Tyler Lockett. Now, I know Kupp at his heights was a better player than Tyler Lockett, but Tyler Lockett wasn't anything to shake at. He must have really lost a step, man, if they got rid of him and they went and got Cooper Kupp. But here's Corbin Smith, Locked On Seahawks, to tell you all about that.
Cooper Kupp is heading back to the state of Washington. The former Eastern Washington Star signing a 3-year, $45 million contract to join the Seahawks just days after being released by the Rams. He'll stay in the NFC West. It's a homecoming of sorts for the former Offensive Player of the Year. The last 3 years have been marred by injuries, missing at least 5 games each of the last 3 years. but he still has been productive when healthy. Last year, Kupp finished with 710 receiving yards and 6 receiving touchdowns in 12 games. If he would have played an entire 17-game season, he would have finished with over 1,000 yards. So he has still been productive. 2022 and 2023 also finished in the top 15 among receivers in yards after the catch per reception. Not a burner, not a guy whose game is predicated on creating separation with his athleticism. He does it with his mind and his route running savvy. Should be a really good counterpart to put with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Marquez Valdez-Scantling in Clint Kubiak's offense moving forward.
I think that's the key. They're going to depend more on route running than they are on explosiveness. And, they still have draft picks. So we'll see exactly what they do with the draft picks, the second-round pick that they got from the Pittsburgh Steelers to go along with the picks that they already have. Seattle's one of those teams that I can't quite put my finger on, like where they are. Where are they as a franchise? Remember, they got rid of Geno Smith too, and now Sam Darnold is their quarterback. So Geno was traded to Las Vegas. So it's going to be a lot of new faces in Seattle. I hope for their sake they got this right, because the 12th man out there, they do not play. We ain't never seen them boo a team, but we might see them boo their own team if they don't get it together. Man, it's good to have y'all in the barbershop today. Like I said, solo dolo. We will make sure we get back to it on our regularly scheduled program, but make sure you also tap into Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parsons and Coach Keith Sanchez. There's nobody in the business that will allow you to understand the draft, the players, the prospects, and it'll help you with your mocks as well. Make sure you tap into Locked On NFL Draft and check out Damian Parsons and Coach Keith Sanchez. All right, man, hope y'all enjoyed today. Jamar Chase got everybody paid, got T. Higgins paid. They still have some work to do with Trey Hendrickson. I hear, as of the recording of this show, that they are actually trying to work it out with Trey Hendrickson. You can go over to Locked On Bengals for the latest on that. Aaron Rodgers holding multiple teams hostage. Check out Locked On Steelers, Locked On Giants, and Locked On Vikings for the latest on that. No regrets for Myles Garrett. Finally, something good to report from the Cleveland Browns. All right, man, y'all take care. Good to have you here today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins